The music in the Obsidian Club is muted. Chan-hyuk stands at the counter. He's looking at the papers, but his mind is elsewhere. He looks up and notices Amon. She walks across the room. She's wearing his shirt, a black silk shirt with his monogram. He forgot it in his office a week ago. Now she's wearing it. The shirt is loose, but you can tell it fits her beautiful figure. Imonia has rolled up her sleeves. She's working, carrying empty glasses. Chan-hyuk puts the papers aside. He walks slowly across the hall, his steps silent on the dark floor. He stops her at the kitchen door. "Imonia," he says. His voice is quiet, but she hears it clearly. She turns around. There's no surprise in her eyes. A slight smile on her lips. "Yes, boss?" He doesn't look at her face. His gaze slides over the fabric of her shirt. "This is my thing," he says simply. Imonia looks down, as if noticing the clothes for the first time. She shrugs. "I found it in the utility room. It was hanging on a chair. I thought someone had forgotten it. It was so good. It was a shame to throw it away." He knows she's lying. There are no silk shirts in the back room. He takes a step forward. There's little space between them now. He sees her pulse beating in her neck. He smells the familiar scent of his own fabric mixed with her perfume. "Take it off," he says, his voice a command. "Now! And never wear anything that doesn't belong to you again." The smile never leaves her face. She even becomes a little bolder. "But I like it, and it fits well." He doesn't react to her words. His face is emotionless. He leans a little closer. Now he speaks so quietly that only she can hear. "Mark my words," he says slowly. "If I see you in my shirt again, it will end badly for you. Understood?" She looks him straight in the eyes. There's silence for a few seconds. Then she nods. The smile finally fades. "Got it, boss." He looks at her for another second. Then he turns and leaves. He doesn't look back. The conversation is over. Imonia watches him go. Then she turns and walks into the kitchen. The door closes. Only now does she allow herself to smile broadly. She doesn't look scared. She looks as if she's just made an important decision. Imonia returns home late. Her apartment is small but cozy. She turns on the light and takes off her jacket. Underneath, she's still wearing Chan-hyuk's shirt. She hadn't taken it off at work. After the conversation, she simply pulled on a work vest over it. Now she stands in front of the mirror, looking at herself. The black silk clings softly to her shoulders. She brings the collar to her nose and inhales. The scent of the club, smoke, and wine almost overpowered his own. But something still lingers. Something clean and cool. She goes into the bedroom. She neatly spots another identical shirt on the back of a chair. The same one she found earlier. The one they were talking about, she hid. But this one has been hanging here for a week. Chan-hyuk left it behind after a late meeting. She took it to the cleaners, but then changed her mind. She takes off the shirt she's wearing and hangs it next to the other one. Two identical black shirts. They seem out of place in her room, where everything is bright and colorful. She sits down on the bed. She thinks about Chan-hyuk. He's 26 years old, but he runs everything here. He's always put together. His clothes are always perfect. His words are always precise. He never raises his voice, but everyone obeys him. She's the complete opposite. She's loud, loves to laugh, wears bright colors. She's been working here for 6 months. From the very beginning, she noticed how he looked at her. Not like a boss looks at an employee. There was something else in his gaze. Something quick, almost elusive. But she saw it. He never did anything. He has rules. Lots of rules. And one of them is not to get involved with female employees. And now his 2 shirts are hanging in her bedroom. They're more than just clothes. They're a challenge. They're a way to get his attention. Not the polite, distant attention of a boss, but real attention. What she saw in his voice today when he spoke to her, there was more than just anger in it. There was a spark. Imonia goes to bed. Her decision is made. Tomorrow morning, she'll wear one of those shirts again, on purpose. She wants to see what he does. Wants to see if that spark will rekindle. The risk is great. She could lose her job, but something inside her says it's worth it. Morning arrives with bright sunshine. The light falls directly on Imoni's bed. She wakes up and immediately remembers her decision. Her heart beats a little faster. She stands up and goes to the chair. 2 black shirts are still hanging there. She chooses one, the one she was wearing yesterday. She takes it and brings it to her face again. The smell is almost gone. Now she can only smell the detergent she used to wash it last night. She slowly puts on her shirt. The fabric is cold and slippery. She fastens the buttons one by one. She looks in the mirror. The shirt looks different on her than on Chanhyuk. On him, it fits precisely, like a uniform. On him, it drapes softly, emphasizing her curves. She rolls up the sleeves just like yesterday. Then she puts on simple black pants. She doesn't do a complicated hairstyle. She just pulls her hair back into a tight bun. She doesn't wear any flashy jewelry. Everything should be simple today. The focus is on this shirt. She eats breakfast and drinks coffee. Her hands aren't shaking, but inside she's tense. She imagines his face. She imagines how he'll see her. What will he do? Will he repeat his warning, or will his actions be different this time? She leaves the house. The walk to the club takes 10 minutes. She walks quickly. The morning is quiet. The streets are sparsely populated. She passes through this back service entrance of the Obsidian. Inside, it's quiet and empty. During the day, the club looks completely different. No music, no people, only the cleaners mopping the floors. She climbs the service stairs to the second floor. The offices are there. His office is at the very end of the corridor. She needs to pass by to get to the staff room. She walks slowly. Her footsteps echo in the empty hallway. Her heart pounds loudly. She approaches his door. It is closed. She stops for a second. Then she continues on her way. She hasn't met him. Yet. In the staff room, she hangs up her jacket, straightens her shirt, gets ready to wait. Her shift starts in an hour. He usually arrives earlier. She knows his schedule. She sits on a chair and looks out the window. The sun is shining brightly. She's no longer thinking. She's simply waiting. Her entire posture suggests calm. But inside, everything is frozen in anticipation. Chanhyuk arrives at the club at his usual time, precisely at 10 in the morning. He enters through the main entrance. The room smells of cleaning liquid. The cleaner nods at him. He heads for the stairs to his office. He has a lot to do today. He thinks about his conversation with Imani yesterday. She will listen to him. Girls usually listen to him. There was no doubt about that. He climbs the stairs. His steps are confident. Halfway up, he looks up, and he sees her. She's standing at the top of the stairs, looking down, as if waiting for someone. She's wearing jeans and that same black shirt. His shirt. The light from the window falls directly on her, and the silk gives off a soft sheen. Everything inside Chanhyuk freezes. His thoughts stop. He stops moving. His hand still rests on the railing. He looks at her. She looks at him. There is no smile on her face. No fear. Only a calm, direct gaze. He sees every detail. The rolled-up sleeves. The top few buttons undone. The way the fabric lies softly on her shoulders. The way she breathes. The fabric moving slightly. Her first thought was anger. Pure, cold anger. She had disobeyed his direct order. Publicly. Brazenly. But along with the anger comes something else. Something sharp and burning. Admiration for her audacity. Interest in what she's up to. His face turns stony. Not a muscle moves. Only his eyes darken. They become completely black, without a single glimmer. He continues climbing the stairs. His movements are slow now. Almost drawn out. He doesn't take his eyes off her. She doesn't look away. He climbs to the top step. Now they are level. Less than a meter separates them. He feels her breath. He sees her eyes sparkle. He doesn't say a word. He just watches. His silence is heavier than any screams. They stand facing each other at the top of the stairs. Time seems to stand still. The silence in the empty hallway becomes loud, oppressive. Chanhyuk takes a slow step forward. Then another. He approaches Imone. She doesn't retreat. Her back is straight, her chin slightly raised. She holds his gaze. He stops so close that he can see the smallest details of her face. Thin eyebrows, long eyelashes, light freckles across the bridge of her nose. Her lips are pressed together. He looks down at the shirt, at the very fabric that should be in his closet, at his monogram on the pocket, at the buttons she left half-fastened. He raises his hand, slowly. She watches his movement, but doesn't move. His fingers almost touch the collar of his shirt. He doesn't touch her. His hand freezes in midair. Then he lowers his hand. His gaze returns to her face. There's a question in his eyes, a question he already knows the answer to. There's a sound behind him. It's the janitor moving a chair downstairs. The sound breaks the silence, but not the tension between them. Chanhyuk turns and looks down the stairs. Two of his men are standing there. They just walked in and froze when they saw the scene above. They look at their boss and the girl in his shirt. Their expressions are one of complete bewilderment and slight alarm. Chan Hyuk looks at them. His gaze is blank, but they immediately understand. They look away and quickly walk toward the kitchen. Out of sight. Now they're alone again. Chan Hyuk turns back to Amon. He tilts his head toward the hallway, toward his office. It's not a request. It's an order. He turns and walks down the corridor. His footsteps echo loudly in the silence. He doesn't check to see if she's following him. He knows she is. Imanaya takes a deep breath. Her hands tremble slightly. She clenches them into fists. Then she slowly follows him. She hears her heels clicking on the floor. The sound merges with the sound of his steps. He approaches the door of his office. Opens it. Steps inside. Doesn't close the door. She stops at the threshold. He stands by the large window, his back to her. The sunlight outlines his figure. "Come in," he says without turning around. His voice is even, emotionless. "And close the door." Imanaya enters. She turns and pushes the heavy door open. The dull click of the lock is heard. Now they are locked in his office alone. Silence closes in around them again, thick and full of unspoken words. The click of the lock sounded too loud in the complete silence of the office. Now they were locked in. A closed space, full of heavy furniture and silence. Chan Hyuk doesn't turn to face her right away. He's standing by the window, looking out onto the street. His back is straight, his arms at his sides. Sunlight falls on his dark hair and the shoulders of his white t-shirt. He looks calm, but there's a tension in his posture, like a spring being compressed to its breaking point. Imanaya doesn't move. She stands 2 steps from the door, her hands at her sides. Her heart beats somewhere in her throat, loud and uneven. She senses every particle of air in this room. The scent of old wood, leather, something else. His. The clean, masculine scent of soap and something sharp that always lingers around him. She looks at his back, waiting. All the courage that burned within her on the stairs is now gone. Only clarity remains. Clarity and a strange calm. She has made her choice. Now everything depends on him. He turns slowly, his face still impassive. He looks at her. His eyes are dark, almost black, and there's no hint of what he's feeling. He looks at her as if he's studying something new, unfamiliar, but dangerous. He walks across the office, his steps quiet on the thick carpet. He doesn't walk straight toward her. He moves in an arc, as if assessing her from all sides. He stops in front of his desk, placing his palms on the dark wood. He says finally, his voice is quiet, even, but it has such power that his words send shivers down your spine. It's not a request. It's not even an order in the usual sense. It's a statement of fact. She'll do it because there's simply no other option. Imonia takes the first step, then the second. Her legs obey, though inside she trembles. She approaches the table. She stops in front of it. Between them is a wide tabletop littered with papers. But this distance doesn't feel safe. It feels like an abyss about to be crossed. He pushes away from the table and walks around it. Now there are no obstacles between them. He approaches her again, slowly. He closes the distance to 1.5 meters, then to a meter. "Why?" he asks. One single question. His voice is still quiet, but there's a slight hoarseness to it. "I told you clearly. You heard me. Why did you do it?" He doesn't specify what exactly. He knows she understands. Imonia looks into his eyes. She doesn't know what to say. Really? Say she wanted to get his attention? That she was curious about what he would do? That sounds stupid. More dangerous than a lie. She is silent. Her tongue seems stuck to the roof of her mouth. "I'm waiting for an answer," he says. He doesn't raise his voice. But the silence after his words becomes even heavier. The room seems to shrink around them. The bookcases, filled with heavy tomes, seem to lean closer. The large window, flooded with sunlight, brings no warmth. Everything is frozen in anticipation. Chan Hyuk waits. He doesn't rush her. He stands still, looking at her face, reading every tiny emotion. He sees her trying to collect her thoughts. He sees the slight tremor of her lips. He himself doesn't fully understand what he feels. Anger, yes. She disobeyed him, publicly. It's a challenge to his authority. If any of his people find out she got away with it, it will set a bad precedent. He must be firm. He must punish her, fire her, or do something else to show who's boss. But there's something else too. Curiosity. A deep, intense curiosity. Why did she do it? What did she want to achieve? Was it stupidity? Or calculation? He looks at her, at her large eyes, now flickering with both fear and determination. at her figure beneath his shirt, at her hands, clenched into fists at her hips. He's used to people fearing him, or respecting him, or both. But this girl, she's not like the others. She doesn't look at him as a boss. She looks at him as a man. And this challenge, this shirt, it wasn't a challenge to his authority. It was a challenge to him personally. The thought burns him. It's dangerous, and therefore even more interesting. He breaks the silence first, not with words. He takes another step forward. Now there's less than half a meter between them. She has to tilt her head back slightly to look him in the eye. He's tall, almost a head taller than her. He feels the warmth radiating from her body. He smells the light, sweet scent of her shampoo. He sees the pulse beating rapidly in her neck, in that soft spot between her collarbones. The room fills with this silent anticipation. Anticipation of his actions. Anticipation of her response. The air has become thick, difficult to breathe. He comes closer, so close now that his chest almost touches the top of her head when she looks up. She doesn't back away. Her heels dig into the floor. Her breathing quickens. She feels him through her whole body. His scent surrounds her. It's not the light scent that lingered on her shirt. It's him, the scent of clean skin, warm, vibrant, mingled with something elusively sharp, perhaps the sweat from his morning workout. The scent hits her head, makes her heart beat even faster. She feels his warmth. It radiates from him in waves. He stands so close that if she takes a deep breath, her chest will touch his. The thought is both frightening and exciting. He lowers his gaze, first to her face, then slowly, very slowly, his gaze slides down, to her neck, to the open collar of her shirt, to the place where the fabric stretches across her chest, to the rolled-up sleeves. His gaze is heavy, almost physical. It seems he sees not the fabric, but what's underneath. Emonia feels goosebumps run across her skin under his gaze. She wants to cross her arms over her chest, to protect herself, but she doesn't. She stands up straight. He raises his hand, slowly, giving her time to pull away. She doesn't move. His fingers move toward her hand, toward her wrist, which peeks out from under her rolled-up sleeve. His fingers touch the fabric of her shirt. Just the tips at first. They glide over the silk of her forearm. The touch is light, almost weightless, but it sends an electric shock through her body. He doesn't look at his fingers. He looks into her eyes. He searches for a reaction. He sees her pupils dilate. He sees her sigh almost inaudibly. His fingers stop at the cuff. He takes hold of her wrist. Not hard, but firmly. His fingers wrap around her thin bone. His skin is hot against the cool silk. He slowly runs his thumb along the inside of her wrist, where the fine mesh of veins is visible. His touch is gentle, exploring. It's a question asked without words. What is it? What do you want? What are you doing? Emonia freezes. Her breath hitches. The warm touch of his fingers on her skin is all she can think about. Everything else, the room, his power, her work, disappears. Only this remains. His hand on hers, his gaze fixed on her face. He feels her pulse pounding beneath his fingers, her skin growing hot. She doesn't try to pull her hand away. She lets him hold it. Her silence is also an answer. He releases her wrist. His hand moves higher. Now his fingers glide along the rolled-up hem of her shirt. They brush the skin of her forearm. His touch is still light, but now there's intent in it. He studies the boundary between the fabric and her skin. Then his hand drops. He places his palm on her side, just above her waist. Through the thin silk, he feels the warmth of her body, the curve of her figure. His hand lies there heavily, affirming something. Your explanation, he says finally. His voice is hoarse, quiet. He sounds so close that his words seem to touch her skin. I'm listening. His hand rests on her side. His warmth penetrates the fabric, warming her skin. The touch paralyzes her thoughts. She must speak, say something. Her voice is hoarse. She swallows. My things, all my clothes. They're in the wash. I didn't have anything clean. Nothing suitable for work. She says this, looking somewhere over his shoulder. She can't meet his eyes now. Her words sound stupid even in her own ears. Too contrived, too childish. He's silent. His hand still rests on her side. His thumb begins to make slow, barely noticeable movements, up and down, along her ribs. It's terribly distracting. In the wash, he repeats. His voice is flat. All the clothes. Yes, she says, nodding. Her movement is sharp, nervous. I was putting it off. Then suddenly it was all over. And this shirt, it was clean. I thought, you wouldn't mind, would you? For one day? He knows it's a lie. He can see it in the way she avoids his gaze, in the tension in her shoulders, in the tremor in her voice that she tries to hide. If it were true, she would be looking at him straight on, apologizing, looking embarrassed, not like that, not so defiant, not like she was expecting something. He thinks about what he saw in her eyes on the stairs. There was no apology. There was determination. There was anticipation, as if she were playing some kind of game and had just made her move, and now she was waiting for his answer. His hand on her side tightens a little. It doesn't hurt, but it's enough for her to feel his strength, to understand that he doesn't believe her. You thought I wouldn't mind, he says slowly, drawing out the words. After I told you yesterday. I told you clearly. She swallows again. Her eyes finally meet his. His. There is genuine fear in them now. But not only that, there is also a challenge, stubbornness. I forgot, she mumbles. It was late. I was tired. I didn't think. You haven't thought, he repeats. His voice sounds like he's talking to a child who's saying something obviously stupid. Interesting. He looks at her. His gaze makes her blush. She feels heat spreading across her cheeks, down her neck. Her lie hangs between them, transparent and pathetic. He waits for her to say something else, to confess, or to come up with something more plausible. But she remains silent. She simply stands under his gaze, under his hand, which still rests at her side. Her lips are pressed tightly together. She is not going to say more. He understands. She has no plausible explanation, because the truth is different. The truth is not in the laundry. The truth is something else, in what is happening between them now, in this tension, in this closeness. He removes his hand from her side. It's unexpected. She almost staggers, as if her support has been taken away. Now there's only air between them again. Thick, hot air. He takes a half step back, gives her space. His face remains emotionless, but something has changed in his eyes. Colder, harder. Okay, he says quietly. Let's say I believe your story. Laundry. Forgot. He pauses. He looks at her, assessing her. But the fact remains. You violated a direct order. You showed up to work wearing something that didn't belong to you. My thing. He says this calmly, as if he were observing the weather outside the window. I'm giving you a choice, he continues. One last chance. You can take off this shirt now, on your own, and put on something of your own. Anything. And we'll forget this conversation. You'll continue working. Everything will be as before. He says this, looking her straight in the eye. There's no threat in his gaze. It's simply a statement of terms. A fair deal. Or, he pauses again, you refuse. And then I take action, as your boss. You understand what that means. He doesn't specify what these measures are. Dismissal? A fine? Something else? He leaves it vague, which makes it even more frightening. He waits. He gives her time to think. He sees thoughts flickering in her eyes. Fear, calculation, stubbornness. She's faced with a choice. The easiest way is to agree, apologize, take off her shirt, put on her old t-shirt, which is probably hanging in her locker, and it will be over. She'll keep her job. He'll leave her alone. But that would mean defeat. She would give in, accept his power unconditionally, and everything that had been between them these past few minutes, that tension, that closeness, that touch, would all evaporate. He would become simply the boss again, cold, unapproachable. There is another way, risky, dangerous, but she slowly raises her head. Her eyes meet his. There is no fear in them anymore, only determination, the same one that was on the stairs. She shakes her head, once, clearly, refuses. No, she won't take off her shirt. She won't give up. The silence that follows this gesture is deafening. It seems even the air has stopped moving. Chan-hyuk freezes. His eyes narrow. Something flashes in them. Not anger, something sharper, something like respect, and something else, anticipation. He nods, once, briefly, as if to say, okay, you've chosen. He doesn't say another word, he just looks at her, and then his hands rise again, this time with a purpose. He reaches for the buttons on her shirt. The game is over. The choice has been made. Now it's his turn. His hands rise slowly. They move through the air, Purposefully and without hesitation, Imonia sees them approaching. She freezes, stops breathing. The whole world narrows to the space between them, to those hands. His fingers find the first button, the top one, the one just below her collarbone. His fingers are warm, the tips slightly rough. He takes his time. He simply touches the button, as if checking to see if it's real. Then he grasps it between his thumb and forefinger. He looks into her eyes, not at his hands, but straight into her face, searching for the last hint of doubt, of retreat. His gaze is firm, implacable. There's no anger in it now. There's determination. She's chosen this path. Now he'll see it through. He makes a slight movement. The button slips easily from the loop. It's completely silent, just the soft rustle of fabric. The shirt opens slightly at the top. A small triangle of leather opens at her neck. He feels her shudder at the touch. He feels a chill run across her skin beneath his fingers, but she doesn't move. She doesn't pull away. He glances at the button, then back at her face. The first step has been taken. There is no turning back. His fingers move lower, to the second button. He grabs it again. His movements are precise, measured. He doesn't tug at the fabric. He simply releases the button. Another soft sound. The shirt unravels another centimeter. Now the thin chain around her neck and the beginning of her beige bra are visible. He sees it out of the corner of his eye, but doesn't hold it. He continues to look at her, watching her reaction. Her breathing has become shallow, rapid. Her lips are slightly parted. Her eyes are wide open. She stares at him, unblinking. He moves to the third button, the one right between her breasts. This one might be tight, but no, it gives way just as easily. His fingers brush the warm skin between her breasts for a split second. She shudders harder. A light blush spreads across her cheeks. He feels the air in the room change. It becomes thick, heavy. They find it hard to breathe. The room seems hot, even though the window is closed. The silence is now filled with the sound of their breathing. His, even but tense. Hers, intermittent, light. He unbuttons the fourth button, then the fifth. He moves slowly, deliberately. Each movement is a separate action. Each unbuttoned button is a step across an invisible boundary. The shirt is now unbuttoned to her waist. The flaps hang loosely at the sides. It's held in place only by her shoulders and the waistband of her trousers. A little more, and it will be completely open. He pauses. His hands fall to his sides. He gives her time, gives her one last chance to stop this, to say no, to pull away. She stands still. Only her chest rises and falls rapidly. She is silent. Her eyes tell him, "Go on." He raises his hands again. But this time he doesn't reach for the buttons. His hands find the hem of his unbuttoned shirt. He curls his fingers into the fabric. His knuckles brush against her skin at the sides, just above her pants. She shudders again at the touch. He slowly pulls the flaps of her shirt apart. The fabric glides softly over her skin. The shirt parts, revealing her. He sees her shoulders, the smooth skin of her breasts, covered only by thin underwear. Her stomach, flat and warm. He freezes, pauses. His gaze glides over her. He studies every exposed detail. He sees her skin break out in goosebumps from the coolness of the room and from his gaze. He sees the muscles of her stomach tense. He doesn't touch her. He simply looks. This look seems more intimate than any touch. He sees her as no one else sees her, sees the result of his audacity and her challenge. The room is completely silent. Even their breathing seems muffled. He can smell her skin, sweet, warm, mingled with the faint scent of soap. The scent hits him in the head, clouding his thoughts. He looks at her shoulders, at the soft curves of her collarbones, at the delicate way the strap of her bra lies. It's all so close, so accessible. He looks up. His gaze meets hers. She looks straight at him. There's no fear in her eyes now, no shame. There's something else, a challenge. The same challenge that began on the stairs. Her look says, "Well, what next? You wanted to see this. Now, you see it." She stands before him, open, vulnerable, but not defeated. On the contrary, it seems as if she has won. She forced him to do it. She forced him to cross the line he himself had drawn. She doesn't try to cover herself. She doesn't cross her arms. She simply stands, letting him watch. Her posture is straight, proud, as if she were a queen, and he was a subject who dared to look up at her. That look drives him crazy. He expected fear, submission, maybe tears. But not this. Not this quiet, calm audacity. He sees his own feelings reflected in her eyes. He sees the same struggle, the same tension, the same desire that is now impossible to ignore. She smiles. Slightly, just the corners of her lips. It's not a happy smile. It's the smile of someone who's won a bet, who knows their opponent has fallen into their trap. This smile is the last straw. Something snaps in his head. It's as if a thin, invisible string that has kept him in control until now is snapping. The string that reminded him who he is, that he's the boss, that he has rules, that this is wrong. All this disappears in an instant, erased by her smile, her gaze, her skin that shines before him. His calm, his cool prudence, all of it evaporates. Something else takes its place. Something stronger, more primal. A feeling he'd suppressed for so long. One that had slumbered somewhere deep inside, and now awakened with the fury of a hungry beast. His breathing catches, it deepens, speeds up. A fire appears in his eyes. Not anger, heat. A powerful, uncontrollable desire. He no longer thinks about the consequences. He doesn't think about work, about the rules, about what will happen tomorrow. He thinks only about her, about wiping that smile from her face, about proving to her who's really in charge here, not with words, not with orders, but the way a man and a woman do. He takes a step forward, sharp, decisive. Now there is almost no space between them. His hands find her face. They cup her cheeks, his fingers digging into the hair at her temples. His touch is not gentle. It is demanding, powerful. He leans toward her. His face comes close to hers. She doesn't pull away. She looks him straight in the eyes, and there's still that challenge in her gaze. He kisses her. This isn't a gentle, exploratory kiss. This is a capturing kiss, a declaration kiss. His lips press roughly against hers. He wants to feel her, to possess her, to erase everything that came before between them. And at that moment, all the tension that had been building since the morning, since the stairs, since that slow undressing, bursts out. It explodes in this kiss. It's like a dam has burst. Now there's no stopping. He tastes her lips. Sweet, with a hint of her lipstick. He feels her first freeze in surprise. And then, she answers him. Her hands rise. They grip his shirt, not to push him away, but to pull him closer. Her lips move beneath his. She kisses him back, with the same force, with the same fury. She's not passive. She doesn't submit. She fights. But this isn't a power struggle anymore. This is a fight over who will kiss harder, who will breathe faster, who will feel more. Her kiss is a return fire. It's just as hot, just as reckless. She bites his bottom lip, making him sigh in surprise and pain, which immediately turns to pleasure. He pulls her close. His hands slide from her face to her back. He feels the thin silk of her shirt under his fingers, and the warm skin beneath. He squeezes her so hard that she lets out a soft moan into his mouth. But it's not a moan of pain. It's a moan of approval. Their struggle turns into passion, a furious, uncontrollable desire. All barriers have fallen. All rules are forgotten. Only they remain. Only this. He breaks away from her lips to catch his breath. His forehead is pressed against hers. They breathe heavily, their breath mixing in a hot cloud between them. You, he begins, but can't finish. The words seem unnecessary. She looks at him. Her eyes are shining. Her lips are red from his kiss. She smiles, a real victorious smile. I knew it, she whispers. Her voice is hoarse and deep. These two words drive him completely crazy. He doesn't think. He acts. His hands find her under her knees. He lifts her into his arms, light as a feather. She cries out in surprise, her arms wrapping around his neck. He turns and takes a few steps toward his desk. He's not careful. He simply sweeps everything off the surface with one hand. Papers, folders, notepads, pens, all of it flies to the floor with a loud noise. He places her on the dark wood of the table. She lies on her back, looking down at him. Her hair is scattered across the polished surface. Her shirt is completely unbuttoned, revealing almost all of her body. He stands between her legs. His hands find her hips. He looks at her, at this painting. It lies on his desk, in the place where contracts and reports usually lie. It seems simultaneously blasphemous and incredibly right. The whole world shrinks to this table. To the two of them, nothing else exists. Not the club downstairs, not its people, not her work, not its rules. There is only this room, this table, she and him. He leans toward her, kissing her again. But this time it's different. Slower, deeper. His hands slide under her back, find the clasp of her bra. He undoes it with one deft movement. The fabric parts. He takes it off, throws it somewhere on the floor. Now she lies before him, completely exposed. He looks at her. He holds his breath. She is beautiful. More beautiful than he could have ever imagined. She reaches for him. Her hands find the hem of his t-shirt. She lifts it up, helping him take it off. He lets her. The t-shirt flies after her bra. Now their skin is touching, hot, alive. He feels every cell of her body beneath his palms, feels her trembling, but not from fear, from desire. He no longer waits. He no longer thinks. He simply lives in this moment, here and now, later, much later. They're lying on the floor of his office, on the thick carpet. He's covered them with his jacket, which had been hanging over the back of his chair. She lies on her side, her back pressed against his chest. His arm is wrapped around her waist. Their breathing evens out, becomes slow and calm. He stares at the ceiling. His thoughts return slowly. They come cautiously, as if afraid to disturb the silence that reigns in the room. He thinks about what happened. He broke his own cardinal rule. He crossed the line he himself had drawn years ago. Don't get involved with female coworkers. Never. Under any circumstances. And here he is, lying on the floor with his waitress. Or rather, his former waitress. He doesn't know. He knows nothing now. He feels her warmth against his back. He feels the softness of her skin under his hand. He feels her breathing slowly. Something had changed between them. Forever. The distance between boss and subordinate had vanished. It had vanished the moment he undid the first button on her shirt. Now who? He doesn't know. Not lovers. That word is too soft for what happened. Too tender. There was no tenderness between them. There was rage, passion, a power struggle that turned into something else. He turns his head, looks at her. Her eyes are closed. Long eyelashes rest on her cheeks. She looks peaceful, calm, not at all like the brazen girl who challenged him on the stairs. She opens her eyes, turns her head to look at him. Their gazes meet. Neither one says a word. Words seem unnecessary now, dangerous. She smiles, weakly, tiredly. Then she closes her eyes again and presses herself closer to him. He looks at her and realizes the old rules no longer apply. They remain there, on the table, along with the scattered papers. Now they'll have to write new ones. And he doesn't know where to start. He only knows that everything has changed, forever. The first ray of sunlight breaks through a crack in the curtains. It falls directly on Chan-hyuk's face. He winces and slowly opens his eyes. At first, he doesn't understand where he is. Then he feels a weight on his arm and warmth in his back. He's lying on his side. Imonia is pressed against him with her back, her head resting on his arm. His other arm is still wrapped around her waist. Her hair smells of the cloud, smoke, and something sweet. This scent is now familiar to him. He lies motionless, listens to her even breathing, looks at her shoulder, at the soft skin where the sunlight now falls. He remembers every touch on this skin, every place he kissed. Awkwardness comes first. What should he do now? Wake her up? Get up first? Feign sleep? He's used to waking up alone, used to the silence and order of his mornings. And now she's here. And everything around him speaks of last night, of his clothes thrown off the couch, of her shirt lying on the floor, crumpled next to his jacket. She stirs in her sleep. Her body presses closer to his, seeking warmth. She makes a soft, sleepy sound. The sound strangely softens the awkwardness. Warmth takes its place. A simple, physical feeling of comfort from being near. He carefully pulls her a little closer to him. She doesn't wake up. She just sighs and gets more comfortable. He looks at the ceiling and thinks about what will happen today, about what people will say when they see them leaving his office together in the morning, about what this means for her, for him. But his thoughts are jumbled. Too many questions. And while she lies in his arms, warm and sleeping, he just wants to remain in the silence. It will be difficult later, but for now, quiet and warm. He stood up first, after all. Carefully, he freed his numb hand. She grumbled in her sleep, but didn't wake up. He found his t-shirt and pants and put them on. Then he gathered her things, carefully folded her pants and that same black shirt, and placed them on a chair. He left the office, quietly closing the door. The hallway was empty. It was still early. He went downstairs, went to his small apartment on the second floor, and took a shower. The cold water cleared his head, but didn't take away thoughts of her. By 9 in the morning, he's already sitting in his other office, a smaller one designed for meetings. His laptop is open in front of him, papers spread out. The club manager is reporting on yesterday's revenue and the problems with drink supply. Chun Hyuk nods, taking notes. Outwardly, he's perfectly calm, but his thoughts are far away. They're up there, in the big office. He wonders if she's awake yet, what she's doing now. Is she putting on her own clothes? Or maybe she's wearing his shirt again? This thought makes him stop. The manager looks at him expectantly, interrupting his report. Go on, Chun Hyuk says evenly. Everything's fine, but it's not like that. Nothing is normal. He can't concentrate. Every number on the report blurs before his eyes. He hears the manager's words, but doesn't understand them. There's only one thing in his head. Memories of last night, of how she responded to his kiss, of how she looked lying on his desk. He's trying to pull himself together. He has to work. He's responsible for all of this. For the club, for the people, for the business. He can't let one girl, one night ruin his concentration. But it doesn't work. His gaze keeps drifting to the door. He waits for her to appear. What will he say to her when he sees her? How will he look at her in front of others? He suddenly realizes he's afraid. Not of the consequences, but that she'll look at him differently in the morning. That there'll be regret in her gaze. Or worse, indifference. That for her, this was just a game, a challenge, and now the game is over. The thought makes his stomach clench uncomfortably. He pushes the papers away. That's it, he says to the manager. I'll study the report later. Right now I have other things to do. The manager nods and quickly leaves, sensing the tension in the air. Chun Hyuk is left alone. He gets up and goes to the window. He looks out onto the street, but doesn't see her. He only sees her face. At first, bold, then passionate. And what will it be like now? He hears a soft knock on the door. Not the usual one, but the door to his private office. The one next door. He turns around. His heart takes a strange leap. Come in, he says, his voice sounding a little hoarse. The door opens. She walks in. She's wearing her own clothes. Plain jeans and a dark t-shirt. Her hair is damp, pulled back into a ponytail. She looks fresh and washed, but there's uncertainty in her eyes. She closes the door behind her. She stands on the threshold, not daring to come closer. Hello, she says quietly. Her voice sounds casual, but there's a slight tremor in it. Hello, he replies. They look at each other across the room. The distance seems vast. Awkwardness hangs in the air like a thick cloud. Yesterday they didn't speak. There was no need. Now words are needed, but neither knows where to begin. Are you okay? He asks finally. The question sounds stupid, but he can't think of anything better. Yes, she nods. She looks at the floor, then back at him. You? Yes. There's a pause. She shifts from foot to foot. Thank you for packing my things, she says. I found them on the chair. My pleasure. Another pause. Long, heavy. Pneumonia, he begins. But she interrupts him. You don't have to say anything, she says quickly. I understand. It happened. But it shouldn't change anything. I can just quit. From work. If it'll be easier. He looks at her. He sees how she clasps her hands in front of her. How she tries to appear calm, but her eyes betray her anxiety. She's offering him the easy way out. Fix the problem. Fire her. Forget about her. But the thought that she will leave, that he will never see her again, seems wrong to him. Incorrect. No, he says firmly. You're not leaving. She looks at him with surprise. But people will talk. They will see. Let them talk, he interrupts. You stay. At your job. He sees relief flicker in her eyes. And something else. Hope? What? What about us? She asks cautiously. I don't know, he admits honestly. He's not used to being unsure. But right now, that's exactly how he is. For now, let's just work. Like usual. And then we'll see. She nods slowly. It's not the answer she wanted to hear. But it's better than completely denying what happened. Okay, she says. The usual. She turns to leave. His voice stops her. Pneumonia. She turns around. Your shirt, he says. That one's mine. You can keep it if you want. He sees a slight, almost elusive smile appear on her lips. Thank you, she says. And leaves. He's left alone. The conversation didn't go as planned, but at least she's staying, and that's something. The day passes strangely. Chan-hyuk tries to keep busy. He holds meetings, signs papers, solves problems, but part of his attention always remains on her. He sees her in the hall as he leaves the office. She's setting up chairs for the evening opening. She doesn't look at him, but he feels she's aware of his presence. Later, as he walks down the hallway to the kitchen, she emerges from the utility room. They almost collide. She looks at him wide-eyed, then quickly looks away and walks past, clutching a box of tissues to her chest. But he caught a small, hidden smile at the corner of her mouth. Quick, like a flash. He's sitting in his office during lunch. One of the waiters knocks on the door and brings him his food. But on the tray next to his plate isn't his usual black paper napkin, but a gray one, folded in a special way. He unfolds it. There's nothing inside, but he understands. It's her. She knows he doesn't like black napkins, finds them gloomy. She's swapped it for a gray one. He puts the napkin next to him and eats. The food seems to taste better than usual. In the evening, when the club fills up, he stands at the bar and watches the crowd. He sees her. She works quickly, deftly, smiling at the guests. She looks the same as always, but he knows. He knows that beneath this ordinariness lies a secret, their secret. She passes by with a stack of empty glasses. Their eyes meet for a split second. She doesn't smile at him, but in her eyes he sees the same sparkle he saw yesterday, the same challenge, only now tempered with understanding. She disappears into the kitchen. He turns to the bartender and orders water. He feels the corners of his own lips tugging upward. He suppresses a smile, but it was already there. It was there. These little moments, these furtive glances, these hidden signs, they create an invisible thread between them, a bridge over the awkwardness of the morning. They don't yet know what to do next. But for now, these secret glances tell them, I'm here. I remember. I care about you. It's not much, but it's enough for now. A week passes. The awkwardness gradually fades. They don't talk about what happened. They don't stay alone in his office. But something has settled between them, a quiet, silent rhythm. One evening, Chun-hyuk is late at the club. Everyone has already left. He checks the closing time, leaves his office, and walks through the darkened room toward the exit. He passes the staff room. The door is ajar, the light on inside. He peers inside. Imonia is alone. She's just changed. She's wearing her street clothes now, a light dress. But on top, over the dress, she's thrown on a shirt. His shirt. That same black silk one. She stands in front of the mirror and rolls up her sleeves. Her movements are calm, habitual, as if she does this every day, which perhaps is true. She sees his reflection in the mirror. She freezes. Her hands drop. She slowly turns to face him. He stands in the doorway, looking at her, at his shirt on her, the same picture as that morning on the stairs. But now everything is different. He waits for her to speak, to apologize, or take off her shirt, but she remains silent. She simply looks at him. Her gaze asks, So what? What are you going to say now? He remembers his words. If I see you in my shirt again. The threat remained unspoken, but it was there. It hung between them all these days. And here she is, in his shirt again. A challenge. But this time it's different. Not a challenge to his authority, but a challenge to, what? His feelings? His decision to leave things as they are? He steps forward. He enters the room. The door closes behind him with a soft click. He approaches her, stops as close as that time in the office, looks at the shirt, at the way it lies on her dress, at the way the sleeves are rolled up. He raises his hand. His fingers touch the cuff on her wrist, just like then. But now his touch is not exploratory. It is grateful. He doesn't say, take it off. He doesn't say anything. He just touches the fabric. Then he lowers his hand. He looks into her eyes and slowly, very slowly, nods. Once. Permission. Silent, but absolutely clear. She exhales. The smile she's been holding back now blossoms across her face. She doesn't thank him with words. She simply places her hand over his, which is still resting at her wrist. A light, quick touch. Then she removes her hand. He steps back, turns and leaves the room. He hears her begin to gather her things again behind him. He hears the soft rustle of silk. He steps outside. The night air is cool. He realizes he's just established new rules. Without words, he's let her wear his things. He's acknowledged there's something between them, something that gives her special rights. It's dangerous. It could be misunderstood. But at this moment, he can't bring himself to forbid her. He doesn't want to. Let her wear it. It's her trophy. And his, too. A few days later, Chun Hyuk notices something. There's a new bartender at the club. A young guy named Mark. He came from out of town, works hard, and learns quickly. And, Chun Hyuk notes, he's very sociable. Particularly sociable with Imonea. Chun Hyuk watches them from his usual spot at the far end of the counter. Mark says something to Imona and laughs. Imona smiles back and shakes her head. She looks relaxed. Cheerful. Mark hands her a glass of some kind of drink, probably non-alcoholic, for himself. She takes it, takes a sip, and nods in approval. They continue talking. Chun Hyuk feels something boiling in his chest. A cold, unpleasant feeling. He doesn't immediately understand what it is. Then he realizes. Jealousy. She looks at this guy so easily. She smiles at him. But with him, with Chun Hyuk, she is still careful, weighing every word, watching every gesture. And this Mark, he's simple, not a boss, not someone who can fire her with a word. With him, she can just be herself. The thought infuriates Chun Hyuk. He's possessive by nature. He's used to controlling everything he considers his. And Yamona, after that night, he'd unconsciously begun to consider her his. Not in the sense of a thing, but his. A part of his life, one that needs to be protected. He watches Mark laugh as he touches her hand to get her attention. She doesn't pull away. She just keeps listening. Chun Hyuk stands up. His movement is abrupt. Several people at the counter turn to look at him. He walks past them without looking at them. He goes to his office. He goes inside and closes the door. He stands in the middle of the room, clenching his fists. He breathes deeply, trying to calm himself. This is stupid. He has no right to her. They never promised each other anything. They don't have a relationship. There's only that night and those furtive glances. But it doesn't help. The feeling of possessiveness, wild and uncontrollable, refuses to listen to reason. She was with him. She wore his shirt. She returned his kisses. And now she's smiling at some bartender. He approaches the window. He looks out at the dark street. His reflection in the glass looks gloomy, almost angry. He has to do something. He can't just stand and watch. He waits until the evening is over, waits until the club is empty, until the last employees have left. He knows Imonia will be late today. She's on cleaning duty. When the room is almost empty, he leaves the office. She is alone. She is wiping down tables, collecting the last glasses. She is not wearing his shirt now. She is wearing her work clothes. She notices him and stops. She smiles. A light, cautious smile. Is everything okay? She asks. He approaches her, stops too close. He sees her smile fade. You talked a lot with the new bartender today, he says. His voice is even, but there's a hint of steel in it. She looks at him in surprise. Then understanding flashes in her eyes, and her face darkens. Were you following me? She asks. Her voice is quiet, but there's a hint of anger in it. I see everything in my club, he replies. It's true, but it sounds like an excuse. We were just talking, she says, turning away and continuing to wipe the table. He's new. I was helping him get used to it. He touched you, Chun Hyuk says. He hadn't planned to say it, but the words just slipped out. Imonia turns around abruptly. Her eyes flash. What? Her voice grows louder. He touched my arm to get my attention, that's all. You were smiling at him, he continues, feeling himself losing control but unable to stop. You seemed too comfortable with him. She throws the rag on the table. The sound is loud in the silence of the empty room. Are you serious? She says, her voice shaking with indignation. You come to me and make a scene of jealousy? Do we even have a relationship? Did you promise me something? No. You said, let's leave everything as is. So I'm leaving it. I'm working. I'm communicating with my colleagues. That's my job. She takes a step towards him, her face flushed with anger. What about you? You think that because we slept together once, now you have the right to tell me who to talk to and how to smile? That's not how it works, Chun Hyuk. His name sounds like a challenge in her language. She rarely calls him by his name. He feels his own anger fading, replaced by a cold clarity. She's right. Absolutely right. He has no rights. He made these rules himself, but to admit it now would be to lose. You work for me, he says, his voice becoming icy and commanding again. Your behavior must be appropriate. My behavior is impeccable, she screams. I'm not doing anything wrong. You're just jealous, like a little boy, and it's ridiculous. Her words hurt him because they are true. He stands, clenching his fists, looking at her. She looks at him defiantly, shaking with anger. The conflict hangs in the air, sharp and unresolved. He wants to silence her. He wants to prove to her that he's the boss here. But he knows that if he does, he'll lose her, forever. He stands before her, and she looks at him with burning eyes. His anger subsides, leaving behind only emptiness and the bitter realization that he was wrong. He turns silently and leaves, not to his office, but through the back door to the street. He needs air. He needs to get away from her gaze, full of disappointment and anger. Chan-hyuk wandered the deserted streets at night. His thoughts revolved around her words. You're just jealous, like a boy. It was the truth, the uncomfortable, humiliating truth. He, who had always controlled every emotion, gave in to the most primitive of them. He didn't return to the club. He went to his apartment, but couldn't sleep. The image of her face, distorted by hurt, wouldn't leave his mind. He'd ruined everything. The fragile, tender connection that had begun to blossom between them after that night had been shattered by one stupid fit of jealousy. Towards morning, he makes a decision. He can't leave things like this. He can't allow her to think of him only as a possessive tyrant. He arrives at the club early, before it opens. He knows she has the morning shift preparing the room. He finds her in the back room. She's alone, sorting through a new shipment of glasses. When she sees him, she freezes. Her face becomes wary, closed. Can we talk? He asks quietly. His voice sounds less like an order and more like a request. She nods silently, puts the box aside, follows him into his small office, not the one where it all happened, but a different one. He doesn't sit at the table. He stands by the window, then turns to face her. I was wrong yesterday, he says bluntly, without preamble. You were right about everything. I have no right to be jealous. I have no right to tell you what to do. We didn't promise each other anything. She looks at him, her face gradually softening. The anger fades, but wariness remains. I wasn't following you on purpose, he continues. I just saw it, and it affected me. I didn't expect such a reaction from myself. This is not an excuse. It's an explanation. He pauses, collecting his thoughts. It feels unnatural to speak so frankly, but he must. I'm used to controlling everything. But with you, I can't. And that scares me. I acted like a fool yesterday. I'm sorry. The last word comes hard to him. He almost never apologizes. But for her, he does. Imonia is silent for a while. Then she sighs. Mark is just a colleague, she says calmly. He's funny, easy to talk to, but that's all. Nothing more. You don't need to explain this, he says. I believe you. She nods, a faint hint of a smile appearing on her lips. Okay, she says. Then, let's forget it. Yes, he agrees. Let's forget it. But they both know they won't forget. This conflict changed something. It created a chink in his armor. And now they stand on opposite sides of that breach, looking at each other more honestly than ever. A few days pass quietly. They return to their rhythm, work, furtive glances, the occasional short conversation. But something hangs in the air, unspoken. One late evening, after closing, he finds her in the backyard of the club. She's sitting on the steps of the stage door, smoking a rare cigarette, looking at the stars. He comes over and sits down next to her. Not too close, but not far either. They are silent. The silence between them is comfortable, not tense. I was thinking about what you said, he begins finally, his voice soft in the stillness of the night. About how we have nothing. She turns her head and looks at him. I don't want us to have nothing, he says. The words come out hard, as if he's pulling them from deep within. But I don't know how to do that. I've never had anything like this. Never. He doesn't look at her. He looks at the dark sky. My life is this. He gestures towards the club. Control, order, rules. I didn't allow myself to be distracted. I didn't allow myself to feel. He pauses, gathering his courage. And then you showed up, with my shirt, with that cheeky smile of yours. And you broke into my order, broke all the rules. And I couldn't stop you. I didn't want to. Now he turns to face her, his face in the moonlight seeming more open, vulnerable. I don't know what we're doing. I don't know what to call it. But I know that when you're around, I don't think about control. I just feel. And it's both terrifying and makes me feel alive. He falls silent. He has said all he can. He has no more words. Imonia listens with bated breath. She sees how hard these confessions are for him. She sees how he struggles with himself, to be honest. It's worth a lot. She throws down her cigarette and stubs it out with her heel. Then she turns fully to face him. I don't know what we're doing either, she says quietly. I put on your shirt because I wanted your attention. Real attention, not from your boss, but from a man. I felt there was something between us, and I took a risk. She smiles, but there is sadness in her smile. And now I'm here, and I'm afraid too, because you're not just a man. You're a whole world, a world I don't understand. She reaches out and carefully places her hand on top of his on the step. His skin is warm, but I want to try to understand, she says. If you allow me. He looks at her hand on his. Then he turns his palm over and squeezes her fingers. His touch is firm but gentle. Yes, he says simply. I will allow it. They sit like this, holding hands, under the cold stars. Words have been spoken. Fears have been acknowledged. Now the way forward, however difficult, is open. They don't plan it. It just happens. The next morning, Chun-hyuk doesn't arrive at the club alone. Imonia walks beside him. Not behind him like an employee, but right next to him. They enter through the main entrance together. Their hands don't touch, but the closeness between them is obvious. The crowd freezes. The manager, carrying folders, stops dead in his tracks. The bartenders stop washing glasses. Everyone watches. Chun-hyuk doesn't look at anyone. He acts as if this is the most ordinary thing. He goes to the bar and orders coffee. For himself and for her. 2 espressos, he says to the bartender, who looks at him wide-eyed. Imonia stands nearby. She feels dozens of eyes on her. Her cheeks are flushed, but she holds her head high. She doesn't smile. She just stands there, waiting for her coffee, as if that's how it should be. This simple coffee order is a statement, clear and unambiguous. They're not hiding it anymore, at least not to this extent. The shock in the club lasts all day. People whisper, glance at them when they think they're not being seen, but no one dares say anything out loud. This is Chun-hyuk. His decisions are not up for debate. For Imoni, this day is a test. She catches glances filled with envy, curiosity, and disapproval. Some of the girls who had previously been friendly with her are now cold. Mark, the new bartender, smiles politely, but keeps his distance. Everyone now sees her not just as a waitress, but as the one with the boss. But there are some positives, too. No one assigns her the dirtiest jobs anymore. Everyone is polite, almost obsequious. Even the manager treats her with unusual respect. In the evening, when they are alone in his office, she sighs and sits down on the sofa. Well, now everything is clear to everyone, she says. He sits down next to her. He doesn't hug her. He just sits close. Let them know, he says. It's easier that way. Easier? She looks at him ironically. Now they either fear me or hate me. No one talks to me normally. Nobody talks to me normally either, he notes. That's the price. She nods. She understands. She has entered his world, and in his world, hierarchy and distance reign. Now those rules apply to her, too. Are you sure you want this? She asks quietly. For everything to be on display? He looks at her. His gaze is serious. I'm tired of the secret glances and hints, he says. I want you to be near me, openly, if you're ready for it. She thinks of the glances, the whispers, the loneliness that now awaits her among her colleagues. And then she thinks of his hand holding hers on the steps that night, of his voice when he apologized, of how he confessed his fears to her. I'm ready, she says. If you're with me. He takes her hand, squeezes it. It's a simple gesture, but there's a promise in it. They're in this together, whatever the consequences. Openness has its downside. Now everyone knows that Imonia is his weak spot. This is understood not only by his people, but also by those on the other side. Chun-hyuk has rivals, small groups that would like to grab a piece of his territory or weaken his influence. So far, they have been unable to do anything. He has been like a rock, cold, impenetrable, with no apparent weaknesses. Now vulnerability has appeared, in the form of a fragile girl with a daring smile. One evening, as Imonia is returning home from work, 2 men approach her. They block her path in the entrance to her building. They don't appear aggressive, They are polite, too polite. Miss Ammonia, one of them says, smiling, we'd like to talk to you, on behalf of our mutual friends. I don't have any mutual friends with you, she replies, feeling a chill go down her spine. Oh, you're mistaken, says the second man. His smile doesn't reach his eyes. Mr. Chan-hyuk knows us all well. We simply want to discuss with you the possibility of cooperation. You could be very helpful, and we pay generously. They offer her money, a lot of money, for information, for her to find out things about Chan-hyuk's affairs, about his plans, about his meetings. He doesn't trust you completely, the first man says, feigning sympathy. He keeps you at a distance, but we could make you truly rich, independent of him. Imonia listens, and her heart beats so hard she's afraid they'll hear. Fear paralyzes her, but with the fear comes rage. Rage that they dared approach her, that they consider her so insignificant that she can be bought. Get out, she says quietly but clearly, right now, and tell your friends that if they approach me again, Chan-hyuk will find out, and it will be very bad for all of you. Her audacity seems to surprise them. They exchange glances. The smiles disappear from their faces. Think about it, girl, the second man says, his voice taking on a menacing tone. This is a lucrative offer. By refusing, you're making a choice. And you're choosing the wrong side. She doesn't answer. She just takes out her phone. Her fingers are shaking, but she dials Chan-hyuk's number. Men see this. They don't want a fight right now. They take a step back. You have time to think, the first one says. We'll be back. They leave, disappearing into the evening twilight. Imonia leans against the wall, her legs buckling. She barely manages to dial the number before tears of fear and anger well up in her eyes. Chan-hyuk arrives 10 minutes later. He's not alone. He's with two of his most trusted men. He gets out of the car, his face a stony mask of fury. He approaches her, still standing at the entrance. Are you okay? His voice is hoarse. He places his hand on her shoulder, checking to see if she's okay. She nods, unable to speak. He sees the tears on her cheeks, and something boils within him. A cold, deadly rage. Describe them, he says briefly. Everything you remember. She takes a deep breath and tries to collect herself. She describes their faces, their clothes, the words they said. Her voice trembles, but she speaks clearly. Chan-hyuk listens without interrupting. When she finishes, he nods. His eyes go completely blank. It's the most terrifying look she's ever seen. Take her to my house, he tells his men. His tone brooks no argument. And stay with her. Don't let anyone in. He turns to face her, his gaze softening for a split second. Go. You'll be safe. I'll be back soon. What are you going to do? She whispers. What I have to, he replies. And he leaves. He gets into his car and drives away without looking back. Imonia goes with his men to his house. Not the apartment above the club, but a real house in a quiet neighborhood. She sits in the large living room, drinking tea that one of the men has prepared. She's shivering, even though the house is warm. She doesn't know what he's doing. She's afraid to imagine, but she knows one thing. Those people who approached her will no longer be a threat to her. Chan-hyuk returns in the early morning. He is alone. He enters the living room and takes off his jacket. He looks tired but calm. There is not a single stain on his clothes. He comes up to her, sits down next to her, and takes her hands in his. It's over, he says simply. They won't come back. No one will come near you again. What did you do? She asks, already knowing the answer. I made it clear, he says, looking her straight in the eye, that whoever touches you will answer to me personally, and that the price for such a mistake will be very high. They understood. He doesn't go into details. She doesn't need to. She sees it in his eyes. She sees the strength, the ruthlessness that hides beneath his calm exterior. It's the part of his world she hasn't encountered yet, the darkest part. And in that moment, she truly understands him. She understands the power and the danger behind the man who confessed his fears to her. He's not just a club owner. He's a force to be reckoned with, and that force has just risen to her defense. She's overcome with conflicting emotions, gratitude for his protection, and horror at his methods. But most of all, she's stricken with the realization that he came out of the shadows for her. He bared his fangs for her. She presses herself against him, burying her face in his chest. He hugs her, and his embrace is strong, protective. It's okay, he whispers into her hair. I'm here. No one will hurt you. She trusts him, But now she knows the price of that faith and the danger that follows her. The next morning, he's having a serious conversation. They're sitting in the kitchen of his house. The sun is shining through the window, but the room is tense. "You can't live alone anymore," he says bluntly. "And you can't work at the club. It's become too dangerous." She looks at him, understanding where he is heading. "You want me to move here and quit my job?" "Yes," he says. "You're protected here. I have good security here. You'll be safe." She's silent. She understands the logic. After yesterday, she's afraid to return to her own apartment. But what am I going to do? She asks. Sit here, within four walls, and wait for you to come home from work? Become a kept woman? There's a hint of bitterness in her voice. She's independent. She's used to earning her own living. Being locked up, even in a luxurious cage, isn't for her. "You can study," he offers. "Anything. Business, languages. I'll pay for everything." "It's not the same," she says, shaking her head. "I'll lose myself, Chan-hyuk. I'll become just an appendage to you. Is that how you loved me then? Dependent and scared?" His face tenses. He sees her pain. "I'm offering you safety," he says, a note of disappointment in his voice. After yesterday, I realized what kind of world I've gotten myself into," she interrupts. Her voice trembles. "And now I'm being offered a choice. Either become your prisoner, or leave and live in fear that some people will approach me in the entryway again. That's not a choice." She gets up and starts walking around the kitchen. "You've shown me your strength. I'm grateful. But I'm not ready to pay for this protection with my freedom. I'm not ready to sit here like a beautiful bird in a golden cage." She stops in front of him. "If I stay, I have to stay myself. And I'm a waitress who loves her job, her coworkers, her little apartment. I don't want to be the boss's girlfriend hiding in his house." He looks at her. He sees her pain, her fear, but also her strength. The same strength that attracted him from the very beginning. "What are you suggesting?" he asks quietly. "I don't know," she admits, tears rolling down her cheeks. "But I know I can't live locked up, and I can't just leave, because I want to be with you, but on my terms." He is silent for a long time. Then he gets up and goes to the window. He looks out at his garden. "You can stay here," he says finally, "but not as a prisoner. You can come and go as you please. You can work, but not at the club. I'll find you another job, a safe one, where my name will protect you, but won't draw attention to itself." He turns to her. "And you'll be under guard, discreetly, but constantly. That's not up for discussion. After yesterday, I can't take any risks." She sees concern in his eyes, and she understands that it's not control. It's concern. Terrible, exaggerated, but sincere. "What if I say no?" she asks. "What if I just leave? Out of town? Forever?" He looks at her. His face becomes sad. "Then I'll arrange your safe departure. I'll give you money. I'll arrange it so no one finds you, and I'll let you go." He says this, and it seems to her that every word is given to him with pain. She now faces a real choice: retreat to safety, but without him, or stay with him, but in new, challenging circumstances. Accept his world with all its dangers and limitations. Imonia sits alone in the living room. Chan-hyuk left, giving her time to think. She looks at this big, beautiful, empty house, a fortress-like house. She thinks about her small, noisy apartment, about her job at the club, where she knew every crack in the floor, about her independent, simple world, and then she thinks about him, about how he apologized for his jealousy, how he confessed his fears to her, sitting on the steps under the stars, how his voice trembled when he said she made him feel alive. She thinks of his face this morning when he offered her refuge. There was no desire in his eyes to lock her away. There was fear of losing her, fear that something would happen to her. He showed her his dark side, a power that could be cruel, but he also used that power to protect her. He risked himself, his position, to fight back against those who threatened her, and now he's offering her a compromise. Not complete isolation, but protection while preserving some of her freedom. He's willing to bend his rules for her sake, so she can stay. It's not an easy decision. Staying means accepting his world, accepting the danger, the shadow that will now follow her, accepting the fact that her life will no longer be entirely her own. But to leave would mean losing him, to rub away that rare, fragile feeling that had blossomed between them, the feeling for which she had once put on his shirt. She gets up and goes looking for him. She finds him in his office on the second floor. He's standing by the window, looking into the distance. He looks tense as if awaiting a verdict. She comes up to him. She doesn't say anything. She just hugs him from behind, pressing her cheek against his back. He freezes, then slowly turns in her arms, hugging her back. "I'm staying," she whispers into his chest. "But we will find balance. Together. You can't just shield me from everything, and I can't pretend there's no danger. We will find a way." He hugs her tighter. His embrace speaks louder than words. It's relief, gratitude, and promise. "I will protect you," he says quietly, "but I will try not to strangle you. I promise." It's not a perfect solution. It's a compromise, fraught with uncertainty, but it's a decision they made together. And that's what matters. She chooses trust. Trust in him, trust in his strength, trust in his feelings. And he, in turn, trusts her. Trusts that she won't run away at the first sign of trouble, that she's strong enough to be with him. It's night. They're standing by the large picture window in his bedroom. Beyond the window, the city stretches out at night. Myriad lights, moving cars, distant neon signs. This entire vast, complex world lies at their feet. He stands behind her, his arm around her waist. She leans her back against his chest. Their reflection in the dark glass looks as if they were one. The past is behind us. The first meeting, his warning, her bold challenge. That night in the office. Conflict, reconciliation, confession. The threat, his rage, her fear. The difficult choice, and the decision to stay. All this is now part of their shared history. Difficult, complicated, but theirs. An unknown future lies ahead. They don't know what awaits them. The dangers haven't gone away. His world hasn't gotten safer. Her life hasn't gotten easier. They will search for that balance between safety and freedom, between his need to protect and her need to breathe. There will be new difficulties, new misunderstandings, perhaps new threats. But now, in this silence, under the flickering city lights, it all seems less scary. Because they're together. He tilts his head and kisses her neck, just below her ear. A light, gentle kiss. She closes her eyes and presses herself closer to him. Neither of them talks about love. The word is too big, too loud for what's between them. It hasn't formed yet, but there is something else. A deep connection. An attraction stronger than fear. A trust that has stood the test. He turns her towards him. He looks into her eyes. In them, he sees the reflection of the city lights and something of his own, warm and solid. "Everything will be fine," he says, and he believes it himself. "I know," she replies, and she believes it too. He kisses her, slowly, deeply. This kiss is not like their first, fierce and rough. It is different. It is full of promise. The promise of a future they will build together, no matter how difficult it may be. Outside, the city lives its own life. Somewhere, work is going on, deals are being made, some are happy, some are suffering. And here, in this quiet room high above the ground, two people begin their journey. A journey full of dangers and uncertainties, but their own. A shared one. He picks her up and carries her to the bed, not with the passion of capture, but with tenderness, with the understanding that now they have time, a whole life. They wake up together in the morning, and it's no longer awkward. It's a habit, a kind, warm habit of waking up and seeing another person's face next to you, the person who chose you and whom you chose.